the biggest thing that I've learned is you have to have the right butts in the right seats. And, you got some folks that come on board, whether they're a part of your organization or maybe they're considering it, and they're just fireballs, man. Like they can do everything. They've got energy for like every little thing, but even still, sometimes, there might be areas in which they lack. So you have to be able to find the key personnel for the key places to really try and grow.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is episode 3 of the Oliver Perry Show. I wanted to welcome a friend and recently found mentor, another mentor of mine, who's a speaker, author, investor, copywriter, and overall coach and badass, Mr. Mike Foster, ladies and gentlemen.
Mr. What's Mike going Foster. On? Hey, well, thank you so much, Oliver, for having me, brother. This is an honor, man, to see you grow and to be on this show, man, and add some value to your audience.
Hey, man, I really appreciate it. I was excited to get you on. I will admit I did a soccer slide across the carpet. My knees aren't doing too great anymore, but it was worth it. It was 100% worth it. So, let's dive right in. Let's dive right in, because I know the audience may not know of you, but so I want to make sure we give them a background of who you are, what you do, and where you see yourself going. So let's get after it.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks again so much for having me. Really long and short of it, I'm just a veteran out there trying to, help some other veterans out. I mean, that really is the easiest way to say it. And I try and keep things simple. I started out, I served in the Navy 6.5 years, got out after investing in real estate. I started a company called Active Duty Passive Income. You see the logo there behind me, but teaching veterans how to invest, right? How to make that step, starting with their VA loan, understanding how to use it, the things that they can do with it, because there's a lot of power with that loan that a lot of vets don't realize, Absolutely. Right? And so, just kind of sprung from that to building a community of folks who are just willing to help out. So there was that, and then kind of sprung me into the podcast to help the voice there. But I took that and I noticed that my biggest thing is just, I love to help people, right? I love to help people. And I thought that, for a while, real estate was, this thing that I was really good at, but really, I just found I'm really good at helping people, right? And that's what I've tried to kind of dedicated my life to. So, really want to keep it short. Like I said, man, I love talking with folks. Like you and I have had multiple conversations, I've had conversations with a lot of other veterans, and it's just been great that while I'm traveling around, because my wife is still in the military, she's got orders out here in Hawaii, so we PCS from place to place to place. It's something I can take with me, my laptop, my microphone, my phone, right? And I can always be in touch. So that's pretty much it, man.
That's outstanding, man. By the way, I now say outstanding quite often because of you after listening to
It's infectious, right?
Right? Yeah, it is. It catches on like wildfire.
Yeah, real quick. I actually got that from my roommate at the Naval Academy. So
really?
He used to say outstanding all the time. And it was funny because we used to make fun of him for it. And then just out of nowhere, me and my other roommate, Max, we just started adopting it. And so, now it is. So I really got to give him credit for that one.
That's funny because I've heard I used to hear it all the time. I don't remember where I was stationed, but like I remember the person was like one of those hard chargers, as we call them, and like high speed, low drag kind of guy. And every time you tell him something, he'd be excited about it. Outstanding, right? That was his thing. So when I heard you say on the podcast, I was like, oh, here we go again. I knew it was going to stick in my head, and sure enough, it did.
That's it, man. That's it.
Man, something I feel like doesn't get enough attention, particularly with your story, is your transition from Navy and doing the real estate to Navy, doing the real estate, and then starting the ADPI, the whole ADPI effort and helping out vets all over the world. What was your thought process going from Navy to real estate? Because it had to be nerve-wracking, because I know there's people out there that are listening or watching right now, and they're in their head, they're thinking, oh, I'd like to do this, but they don't know, like they're afraid. Like, how did you deal with that nervousness, that fear? How did you deal with that?
Well, that's a great question, man. And I think that in my circumstance, it was a little bit different, right? Then my transition was a little different than what someone else would, because my transition was triggered from an event versus
Mm,
where most probably, prepared for it maybe for a year, or at least try to prepare, right?
right.
Get their stuff in order. So I'll try to make this quick, but I was on deployment. I was out in the Middle East. We were doing a Riverine tour out there. And so in the middle of my deployment, I lost my aunt, and
Oh,
she was like a mother to me because I lost my mom when I was 6, and
right,
so it was her sister, right?
right.
She died of sickle cell, and sickle cell was in the family. So my aunt, even after battling through it for an extra 25 years of life expectancy, right?
Wow.
Typically, you're supposed to die in your 20s. She lived
Yeah.
till she was 52. She beat
Wow.
cancer. She
Wow.
beat sickle cell. She beat I think some early onsets of like leukemia at some point, right? But she was just fought through all of it, man. And I lost her halfway through that deployment. And I remember saying to myself, because I wasn't able to go and put her into the ground. I mean, we were on mission, and I respect my commander's decision even to this day, even though it hurt my heart at that moment. I just, we weren't able to go out because they weren't immediate loved ones. And so I remember saying to myself in that moment that I will never let someone else control my time.
Right. Wow.
I'm not going to do it.
Wow.
And I remember that very next week submitting my papers to my commanding officer. And I said, sir, I absolutely respect your decision. I just want you to let you know that this has nothing. Well, I couldn't even say like had nothing to do with it, but
Right.
like this is not in retaliation to what's going on, to your decision at all. This was something that I committed to myself a while ago, knowing that I was going to get out at some point, and this event really just triggered it. And we had a
Right.
long conversation. We had a really long conversation. It was great. We had heart to heart about a lot of things. He
Right.
actually envied me because of some of the things that I was doing entrepreneurial. He wished that he would have taken the plunge a little bit earlier. That's what he shared with me. But he had a successful career. He's done really well for himself. So I'm happy that he's done that and gone on to lead incredible sailors. Just it was my time, man. That to me was my decision. And so based on that event, right, I knew that going into that transition, I wasn't going to let the thought of real estate and plunging in real estate stop me. I wasn't going to let the thought of going into entrepreneurship stop me, and it
Right.
didn't. Even though it was hard, right? I'm not going to lie. Like I had a plan. Maybe like half of the veterans that get out, but even still, it was tough, man. So
Yeah.
the going into the whole real estate space, I didn't have much of income coming in, but I did have a few deals that I was looking at. I was very hungry,
Mm-hmm.
and I was out there networking with everybody. So being able to go out, have that time, have that control of time to go and network was key, I think, to my success even today, and just building a network of folks around me that that I could call on for things, or that I could partner with on things, right? Just random little things that definitely
Wow.
help for sure.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about Auntie, but clearly Auntie was an absolute warrior.
Yeah,
I mean, to
yeah, man, she
beat
was.
cancer and sickle cell and lasted out for 52 years is absolutely amazing in itself.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen a few, I know a few people who have sickle cell and how devastating that can be. Um, I mean, man, that's such a wild story. So that really gave you the umph you needed to really say, all right, I'm making this call and take the jump and take the leap. That's awesome.
Yep.
What
It
was
was
that
that.
first? Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it was that, and 6 months later, I was out. It was
Wow.
very very short. Like we came back from deployment, I had three
Right.
months, signed papers, and
Roll
done.
out.
That's it.
Oh wow.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So your first real estate deal. Let's talk about the first real estate deal because I find that everybody has a interesting story when it comes to their very first deal because mine was crazy. So I imagine yours is just as wild, if not worse.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So I did a lot of reading and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
research, a lot of podcast listening. I heard about how you could do seller finance deals and whatnot. I just so happened to find this particular deal down the block from where I was renting. It was in Ocean View, Norfolk, Virginia, and
Okay. Seven
the
City back home.
place, yeah, man, 757, but but yeah, so it just happened that this place, it was actually two condos stacked on top of each other, and the owner was retiring, and she was going into a retirement community. The chief, or sorry, the agent that I walked in on for the open house happened to be a Navy chief, and he was explaining to me a little bit about the situation. And I guess because he was doing both sides of the transactions, I didn't have an agent at the time.
Right.
He was able to kind of help me out and whatnot. So she was
Nice.
asking way too much for it. He knew it, I knew it, and and I guess he was kind of on my side because that whole Navy thing, which was great. I still think I paid too much for it, though. I really do. But what was great about it was that she was so motivated at the time because she had had it on the market for months. There had to have been like half a year at that point. So I was able to negotiate buying the VA loan on the top and having a lease option on the bottom to buy it a year later. So I put a tenant in the downstairs and rented it long term. I bought the top of my VA loan, and I kind of paid her the difference in the rent, right?
Okay.
From her mortgage to what the rental amount was. So I wasn't pocketing anything on the bottom, but it was all it did was it gave me the ability to buy it later. So I would have control of both. And so later on, my wife came back and she ended up buying the bottom. We actually did live down there for a little bit, but we
Right.
kept renting it out long term after that. And we would do short term rentals on the top when we weren't living up there.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was ended up being very, very creative, and it was kind of by necessity because I didn't really even think about the whole short-term rental thing until I went on unemployment one time, and I had to do something with it because it was just going to be sitting vacant, and I didn't want to do that, so ended up working out, man. We did it once, did it well, we did it again, did it really well, and we took some of that income and rolled it into some other investments. So that was the first deal.
Let's go, Mike. I got excited just hearing the story. Let's go. You Airbnb before Airbnb was cool. That's awesome.
Hey, man,
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
do something.
All right, so you made the transition. You did all that stuff to get, and you got your first deal in your belt. At what point did ADPI come in? How did that entire adventure come about? Because I think ADPI is huge, and I definitely want us to talk about it. So I wanted to start there.
Yeah, man. So ADPI, and thank you for that, by the way. Yeah, activity passive income really, was a conversation that Markian, the founder, and I had. He actually went to my school at the Naval Academy, and we never met that entire time. We were classmates, graduated, walked the same, shook Obama's hand, right? Same year. We just
Wow,
we just never met. But we
that's
connected.
wild.
We connected. Yeah, right. But we connected from a mutual friend of ours because I
Mm-hmm.
had started some kind of business venture with him at the time that didn't really end up panning out. But we connected with him and had a conversation. We had both been looking at real estate. I had closed on this deal. He was closing on an apartment with his parents at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we had thought about what would it look like to create some kind of community for veterans to connect and talk about real estate because it didn't exist. And so he actually had a book, right? The first military house hacking book. He created a little like ebook. It might have been no more than 14 or 20 pages at the time.
Love it.
But it was great. Even just the thought of it, right, was great. It was
Right.
like a what if you could house hack and do this and that. And so after reading it, I told him like, bro, this is exactly what I'm doing. Like, let's do this, right? Let's do this together. Let's start this thing up. So,
Absolutely.
we ended up creating a Facebook page. We ended up creating a little website, for it. And in his head, he always had the idea to create this online course, right, for people to take that was evergreen. You can, no matter where you were, if you were on deployment, if you were overseas, if maybe you're PCSing, heck, if you were on a flight and you had Wi-Fi, right, like you could take it and you can learn about the VA loan and about what you can do with it. So yeah, so we just started out as a community, eventually became some online material that we created, some presentations. And I don't think I've really actually shared this part of the story. So this is exclusive to the Oliver Perry show if you guys are hearing
Let's
it.
go.
Uh,
Get the exclusive, Mike.
that's it, man. So I remember when we really started bootstrapping these courses and online presentations. We had no idea what we were doing, by the way. But I would be coming back from underway, maybe out 4 days, 5 days, 2 weeks at a time. And it would be 2 a.m. And here I am. I got a text message in my inbox waiting for me from Markian. Hey, Mike, did you record that presentation yet? So I'm just like, oh God, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, man. I just got back from underway, but whatever. So I go and I record it. And so if you listen to some of the earlier material,
Uh,
if anyone here has bought the MRIA course and you listen to some of those presentations by me and I sound tired, that's exactly what that situation was. Recording lessons, 2:30 in the morning, coming back from underway. And I'm like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to get it done. I'm going to have duty the next day. I'm not going to be able to do it in like another week. So let's just make it happen. But yeah, man, we were definitely in need of a revamp of that course. So finally we've gotten it done and we're getting ready to launch it, which is awesome. But yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, I gotta tell you, man. The course has been. I'm gonna tell just you. It's been phenomenal for me personally, because I started out just doing wholesaling and hustling and doing things of that nature. Figured it out and was like, okay, cool. Somehow, some way, I ran into, and I think it was like a Facebook ad, and I'd seen it before. It's like, who's this guy? Why does he keep? And then I heard the podcast, right, and it said shooter stand by, and I said, okay. All right. Okay. Now I'm gonna have to sign up just off that, right? So I signed up because I was like, I got to figure out this multifamily thing. I need to sign up, and I want it to be with people who understand, because it's different when you're in the military. In the military, you're always at the risk of something happening. You can deploy, you be called in for duty, you get underway, you got to fly from here to Dubai, whatever it might be. There's a litany of things that we have to deal with as military members that the regular public doesn't necessarily see or doesn't necessarily have to experience, particularly when it comes to real estate investing.
Yeah.
So anybody who's listening or watching, if you're military and you're looking for how to understand how to get into real estate investing, active duty passive income is the place for you. Just so you know now, I'm not plugging it because I'm a member. I'm plugging it because I love it, and I would advise anybody to be a part of it. So now with that said, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. So with that said, 80. So you guys, how did each one? So you guys got into ADPI. You started ADPI. You were doing the late night studio recordings, and you get to the point where you're as big as it is. Maybe not as big as it is now, because of course it starts, so it had to be smaller at first.
Yeah, it was very small.
Point, right. So you get to the point where, it's a personal experience. How did you guys change? How do you deal with that growth? I run into a lot of groups that have a small group starting out and get so big so fast that they lose that personal approach. How do you guys handle it? And how does that change for you guys?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. And that growth journey is tough. All right. It is very tough. There's a lot of stuff that gets involved because, as you start to grow, the more people see what you're doing and not everyone buys it, right? Not everyone's on board. And it's you understand what we're doing, right? I'm sure everyone listening to this, understands the hustle, but not everyone's about it. And the military is a very conservative community by and large. So when we really started growing and when we knew we were at that point of friction was when we started getting like a lot of haters, just a lot of them just popping out of nowhere on our ads, like in our group, even just telling us about what we are doing is wrong and how we're teaching veterans how to invest with their VA loan, which is just meant for them to buy one home and one home only. I'm like, no, that's not what. Like, why? So anyway, it's crazy, man. And we've gotten so much from it, and it is what it is. But once you hit that point and you start getting that feedback, it does kind of mess with you sometimes. I mean, not that it tells us that we're wrong, because that just gives us more fire. But in that journey, there's a lot of decisions that you have to make. Am I going to spend the energy to respond to this comment, or am I just going to move on? Because once you go down that rabbit hole, you're trying to convince somebody who truly believes in their heart that you're wrong, right? And they're not going to back down. So now you start a whole conversation chain of arguments. And does that make you look good? Right? I mean, it's, maybe on one hand, maybe you can say, sure, because you're defending your point. But on the other hand, maybe it doesn't. And you're wasting a lot of time where otherwise you could be focused on growth. And so that has become one real challenge that we faced. Another one, to be quick, is just the challenge of partnerships, right? So as we're growing, I mean, we got a lot of folks that want to partner with us in some capacity. They want to add value to us in some way. Sometimes people come to us without really any idea of how to add value. And we're like, hey, that's great. That's nice. But we don't really have a place to fit you. right? And then you have plenty of folks that try and come and want to promote their stuff and do their thing. And it's like, hey, that's awesome too, but you're not really 100% in line with our mission and our core values. So, I mean, we want to give you the stage, but this is not the right one. So
Right.
why don't we, try and find something else, right? Or we just say no. And it's, and you don't want to hurt, people's feelings sometimes, because you got so many passionate entrepreneurs out there that they just want a voice, and that's great. But, there's a time and a place for things. And also, right, you gotta work hard to build your platform too, right? I mean, this came from the hard work and effort from all of our team members here. And so we can't promote everybody, right? So that's it.
I mean, that's a fact. Partnerships are always tricky. Not to mention, considering, like you said, as you grow, not just the partnerships with other brands, but the partnership internally. Like, you guys have a lot of personnel who are part of the team, part of the main team. And, as founders, it's one thing. But when it's founders, you bring in the marketing director, you bring in the hiring director, you bring in, whoever the logistics guy. I don't even know what we call that in business, but whoever the logistics person is, when you bring them in, now you've got to deal with a whole nother set of personalities and thought processes and attitudes.
Yeah.
With that said, how do you, because you're a little, and not going to say you're higher up, but you're on that totem pole, right? You're one of the key guys. How do you deal with that as a leader? How do you figure out in business how to handle those personalities, how to manage them, where they go, that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question too, brother. Awesome questions, man. This is really good. Yeah, I honestly, I think let's go, man. Let's do this. Hey, we're adding some value today. Honestly, I think it comes down to you as a leader, your personal values, and how you encourage other people to find their strength, right? Because I'll tell you that the biggest thing that I've learned is you have to have the right butts in the right seats. And, you got some folks that come on board, whether they're a part of your organization or maybe they're considering it, and they're just fireballs, man. Like, they can do everything. They've got energy for like every little thing, but even still, sometimes, there might be areas in which they lack. So you have to be able to find the key personnel for the key places to really try and grow. And that's a challenge as well, even struggling as a leader. When you are small and you're trying to get off the ground, you may not have enough money to hire everyone, or maybe you don't really have enough understanding on how to hire someone, right? So, there's a lot of communication, right, challenges that happen too, which is huge. So, I mean, if for anyone who's listening to this, and maybe you're in this point where you're thinking about scaling your team and you're dealing with these concerns, like this question, I would just encourage you to focus on three things that would benefit you as a leader. Communication, number one, making sure that you communicate, not only, saying and talking, saying what's going on clearly and talking frequently, but communicating in a way that the other person can understand, right? That whole 5 love languages book is so incredible, and it's foundational because it just transcends from marriage to just relationships to even business partnerships. Wow. Being able to understand how your partners or how your employees or your contractors, whoever these people are, how your partners communicate is critical. And you need to be able to communicate on the same path so they understand what you need them to do when you need them to do it, right? That's number one. The second thing is having empathy. You have to come from a place of empathy, because you need to understand that when you're dealing with an environment, especially as virtual as things are now, right? COVID 2021, everyone's working from home in some capacity. It's hard because people have lives. They've got kids, they've got work, especially if that other member is active duty. I mean, they have an entire mission that they have to focus on. So, how you handle priorities and how you prioritize things that need to get done. And even when communicating that, you have to understand that they have another life on the other end of that microphone. So keeping in mind that that is the case, having some type of way or meeting, right, or system in place that you're able to navigate through some challenges when things get dropped, right, or when things, just get completely reprioritized, that's critical. And sometimes, your business or your mission may not be the priority, especially if there's some external family situations going on. So you got to have that balance. And then that leads into the third point, which is flexibility, right? Flexibility is also critical because, there's a lot of things that change in the business dynamic. Right now we're going through another huge change in the business world. for those that have been following the whole Facebook thing, right? Facebook has completely changed their algorithm now, where they're now not prioritizing it. I'm sorry, they're not coordinating as much of the tags and how you're able to target people through ads. Right now, they're kind of restricting some of or they're making more restrictions on the privacy settings and giving people more of their space online. So you may not be able to target people in your advertisements like you used to be able to, right? And this is, of course, a knee jerk from all the legalities and the lawsuits that have been involved with all that since that's been going on over this last decade. So it's just, there are always things that you have to be able to account for. So communication, empathy, and flexibility, those are three critical traits that every leader must have, especially in this business world today.
Brother, I was taking notes. I was taking notes. That's good stuff. All right,
No
so
worries, man.
holy moly. So that I mean that makes a lot of sense, particularly being, with your military background and knowing how to get through that, and not to mention the experience of building a company like ADPI to the level that it's at now. That information is invaluable. So one thing, and actually had a phone call a little bit earlier today from a friend, and this is something that I've been posed a question to several times. The VA loan specifically. The VA loan it used to have a cap, right? The cap was gone technically by,
Right.
what is that, 1 January? But what does that
Yeah.
mean? What does that really mean for those who's listening? Because military members, God, I hope you guys are listening. If you guys are listening, this I think is key, because I think a lot of us know everybody's starting to get a bigger idea of the VA loan, but they're not sure how to play the game. They know the ball's there, but they're not sure how to play. They don't know to run first base, when it's a touchdown versus a 3-point shot, what have you.
Right.
It's like my little girl at a
So,
basketball game.
there you go. There it is, right? So honestly, the very first step, guys, for the VA loan, make sure that you talk to a lender and that's knowledgeable and that educates you about this thing, but also make sure you do your due diligence as well, because not all lenders are made equal, and not all lenders think they know or know as much about the VA loan as they think they know. All right. So always verify what you're hearing. But so the first thing about the whole cap being gone, right? The cap is not necessarily gone, but what it is it's alleviated in the first time you use your VA loan, or when you have your full reinstatement made back. So let's say if you bought a VA loan, you sold your house since, and now you have your full entitlement back. Well, the next time you buy your home, or for those that haven't used it, right, the first time you buy your home, you can buy up to however much you can qualify for on your income. Okay, this is based on your income. Now, every bank has a different debt to income ratio requirement. The VA loan typically has a higher debt to income ratio requirement because it's a government loan, right? So they may be in the 40s or the 60s, right? Just kind of depends. However, right, your financial profile also plays a factor in that. So don't think you're going to be Seaman Timmy going out with your VA loan for the first time and you're going to buy a $1.2 million property.
Right.
Guarantee you it's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, maybe if Seaman Timmy has got assets up the wazoo, he's bought multifamily, maybe he's got a lot of properties. That's great. Then Seaman Timmy, you're crushing it, bro. I love it. All right. But if you are just getting into the service and now this is your first time being able to buy a house, and maybe you don't have a lot of debt, but you don't really have a lot of things going on, right? First of all, you don't even need to go and buy something that big. Start small, right? Work your way through. If you're going to go big, get a multifamily, okay? Because you can buy up to a 4-unit with zero money down. Now, you have to have certain financial qualifications to do that. And of course, your lender will help you realize what those are. But at the very least, look into it. Because if you don't, you're throwing away a valuable opportunity to start yourself off right with your very first purchase, okay?
Right.
But yes, so that cap, right, it's there, but it's not seeable, right? Like you can extend past it with each county limit, because every county has a limit based off of the Fannie and Freddie guidelines that dictate, right, how much that cost of living area is. Now, this is important. If you have used a VA loan before and you have your VA loan still intact, let's say you bought that house, you PCS'd, and that house is still there and it's still under a VA loan. When you move to your next duty station, if you want to use your VA loan again, you are now restricted to that county limit in that new area that you're in. And what they're going to do is they're going to take the difference of the amount of VA entitlement that you've used in your previous home and that county limit. And whatever that difference is, whatever that amount is left, that is how much of the home you'll be able to buy with zero money down. So if that difference, let's say, is 200,000 and you're going to buy a home that's 400,000, well, now 200,000 is the new difference, right, of that amount. You have to put down 25% of that 200,000 in order to buy that home. Those are the rules. So you got to be careful. I know it's terrible.
Yeah, I asked the question because I actually experienced this. I did this in Baltimore. I was going to purchase a house in Baltimore, and the first lender was like, "Hey, if you're going to use a VA loan, you got to put 25% down." And we had used a part of it already, actually in the same county, and it was a hefty amount. Like it was a good 30. It was $75,000 ended up being. We were like, holy cow. Yeah, no, we're good. We're going to go, we're going to go FHA or something. This, yeah,
there you
next.
go.
Right. So, I experienced that personally. And that's something that I think is paramount because people don't always understand the rules of the game, like I say, as they play. And knowing that information is going to help them tremendously. So we've talked a lot about real estate. And I think we could cover more, but I definitely want to go into the podcast. I want to talk about the podcast because I'm in podcasting now. We're in the podcasting world. So the podcast has taken off. ADPI podcast has gone nuts. You guys recently had Ryan Serhant on. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Ryan Serhant on. I know you guys had not ADPI. Good grief. It is ADPI. Grant Cardone on at one point.
Had Grant Cardone,
which was nuts. What has been the revelation for you with podcasting? I hear everybody says, it's nuts how, you get the network, so on and so forth. But what has been that real revelation for you with podcasting and how's it affected you?
That's a great question, man. And I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by this answer. My revelation of podcasting actually has nothing to do with the guests, like the star guests that we've had on our show.
Right.
Because we've had some celebrities. I mean, we've had Grant Cardone, like you said. We've had Robert Kiyosaki. We've had Tom Wheelwright. We've had some legends, man. But I'll tell you that the biggest impact that the podcast has had on me is my ability to find my voice and my ability to help my community. That literally is it. And the best episodes that ring true in my heart were those episodes that we had with our members, right? Our members that came on the show. I mean, we had June Shun who spoke about how he found ADPI through our podcast in the middle of his, turmoil at the Naval Academy, where he found out he had cancer. And figuring out how to invest in real estate helped him battle through his fight through cancer. Man, that hit me right here, brother. That's the first time I ever cried on that podcast, dude. It was tough. I mean, we had Randy Broyles come on the show, an Army sergeant, at that time, who started as a PFC in the Army. He just figured he started by buying a mobile home for his dad who was dying. And when his dad finally passed away, turned into a rental property and was like, hey, I can do this. So he started buying incrementally as he moved on, right? His episode was called Crawl, Walk, Run, man. And I'll never forget. And now he's still active duty and he's getting close to 10K a month in passive income just because he started, looking out for his dad. It's incredible, man. I mean, we've had some awesome guests on our show, brother. And it's been phenomenal, man, because every single story just leads to more of empowerment and just more fulfilling, right, into this mission that I started with my friend Mark-Jan so long ago, bro. And it's just it's been phenomenal, man. It's been such a transformation and a journey. And I thank every single one of our guests. I thank every single one of our listeners. I thank you, brother, for helping us, share this mission out, because it's big. It's important for me, man. This is my heart. So
brother, it's super important. It's super important because it's the one thing I feel like we as a military sometimes fall short on, is we're willing to pay the soldier, we're willing to pay the sailor, the airman, the Coast Guard, the Marine, whoever it is. We're willing to pay them, but we don't always teach them what to do with the money or how to do it with the money. And I
Right.
get it. It's, the military, despite how amazing we are a business, and the idea is we need personnel to function, right? So if
Yeah.
everybody's jumping ship, that that might be an issue. But having these kind of outlets and having military members who are like, hey, this is how you go about doing it, and knowing I can still serve and I can do great for my family as well as my country at the same time. It just can't be beat, and I think ADPI plays a huge part of that, as well as a couple others who hopefully I'll get on the show at some point. But ADPI to me right now is at the top of that totem pole, because you guys kind of paved the way and kind of made it what it is today. Um, you know, like you said, with all the guys who are reporting in from their own experiences, it's amazing in itself. So let's talk about with the podcast is a little bit tricky, right? Because technically you got the podcast, you've got ADPI. They're one and the same, but you also got Mike. Like you and Kevin are branding yourself. How do you guys go about balancing? Because I know you've got to manage the social media, you got to do all this stuff, and I'm sure you got a team to do it. But how do you manage making sure that balance stays together when it comes to the business, the podcast, the brand, and you're not too far on one side or too far on the other side?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, because it's something that I'm still continuing to answer even to this day. So I'll be honest, brother, I don't have a foolproof method. And if anybody else out there knows how to do it, please hit me up. All right.
Right?
I'll give you my number text after this. But listen, man, I mean, as of right now, what I figured is that you got to commit to something and you got to stay committed to it, no matter what
Right.
that is. Right.
Absolutely.
And so when you're running a business, especially as an owner of the business, it's tough, because you're directly responsible for the performance of like everything, really. But even that, I mean, when you have a team, which we do, which is great. I mean, we've got an incredible team, awesome folks on there. Everyone has their own focus and their own path, which helps out tremendously. So Kevin and I, we focus on the things that we are, delivering to ADPI, and in that we try and make it as best we can. And then, for the personal side, right, you have to be able to be consistent on the things that you're doing personally, even family, right? I got to be consistent for my family, for my wife, for my new daughter. I have to show up as a dad every single day. And so
Congratulations again, by the way.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. This has been probably the most incredible journey I've been on in my life so far, and brother, it's not done. I don't know when it's gonna end, but it's probably not.
It's never ending.
Never gonna end. It's great.
She's gonna be past 18. She's still gonna be in those pockets. That's it.
Hey, man,
taking that out.
Hey, it is all good, bro. It won't be an L, man. I'm gonna teach her how to dig into her own pockets.
Right.
That's the win right
hey, there you go. There you go. She's gonna have the 10K story next. That's what I'm talking about. That's awesome,
man. But yeah, man, it's just getting really, really good at your time and what your commitments are, and having to balance those. And I'll be honest, brother. I'll be honest for everyone here on this thing. I've struggled with that. I have absolutely struggled with that a lot. I've battled with ADHD and dyslexia my whole life, and it's just it's not an excuse. It's just a power that I haven't learned how to control fully yet, right? And I hope everyone heard that, because you can't make excuses for anything in life. You have to understand you are who you are, and whatever cards you have, that's a power. Right? That's a force that you just have to learn how to wield in the right way. And I've seen some tremendous entrepreneurs, kill it with these things. And so I'm still in my journey trying to figure that out. But yeah, man, it's getting better each and every day. I just hired an assistant this year, man, and just working with her has been absolutely phenomenal, because she's been helping me keep accountable to the commitments that I'm saying I'm going to make. And it's been great so far.
Yeah, so. I think your choice of words there is really interesting. I think the whole thought process of it being a power, it's superpowers. I had somebody tell me one time before I actually did the disc assessment, and they were like, "Hey, your power is this, but you have to learn how to control it." And they said they akined it to if you're a comic book nerd or anything about comic books, Cyclops. Cyclops the lasers came out his eyes. He could not control it. So Xavier had to give him those eye ray glasses things he got on his face to keep him from blowing everybody away. And the same
Right.
principle maintains when you're an entrepreneur is that you have a power. You figure out what that is, whether it's teleporting through walls, whether it's seeing through walls, whether it's flying, whether it's superpowers, super strength, whatever it is. You figure it, whatever it is, out, and you have to figure out how to control it, because otherwise, it has the ability to destroy you just as much as it does to build you. So
That's
I
it.
think, yeah, your choice of words there is absolutely spot on. It's an absolute superpower. So with superpowers in mind, let's get into segments. Let's wrap this bad boy up. Let's get into segments. So segments, the first thing we wanted to do is do the troop to task. And what troop to task is, you give the listener or viewer one thing that they can do to take that next step in their life to get on that path to whatever it might be, whether it be real estate, whether it be golfing, shoot, wrestling, who knows, whatever it might be, they can get on that next step to improve themselves and get forward.
Yeah, man. The very, very next step that I would say is get clarity. Get clarity, because once you get clarity on what it is that you want to do and who you are as a person, it's going to make everything else open up for you. It's going to make it crystal clear. It'll be so much easier to maneuver and to just function, because you know who you are. And I'll listen. Uh-oh. I think I hear my
Yeah,
daughter
she's
crying,
going
so I'll have
off.
to get that in a
Yeah, we
minute.
gotta wrap
Hey.
this up. We gotta wrap this up, buddy. We gotta go.
but yeah, but no, I would say that, once you get clarity. Oh yeah, I had heard this last night from another entrepreneur. He was talking about pitches, right? We all hear the Shark Tank. We all hear, people have these incredible pitches, and there's three things that make that pitch incredible. It's your what, it's your why, and it's your how. Once you can figure out what those three things are, you will be crystal clear in how you communicate your business opportunities. You'll be crystal clear in how you need to maneuver your business to make money, to be profitable, right? To be fulfilling in life, right? You get clear on what it is, like what problem you are solving,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Your why. Why is solving that problem important to you? And how are you going to solve it, right? And how are you different from the market? Get clear on those three things, and you will be able to propel.
That's good one. That's some. All right, whoever comes next on episode 4, y'all in trouble. All right, so let's do the next part of the segment is situational awareness. Now, situational awareness, as you know, Mike, is just being aware of your surroundings, being aware of what's going on. So for you and for anybody who's listening, situational awareness is normally a book, some kind of website, or whatever you might do to kind of keep up with what's going on around you and to how to propel yourself forward with that that awareness or that clarity.
So situational awareness. I'm sorry, brother. What? One more time?
All right, no worries,
Can
no
you give me
worries,
that
no worries,
question
no
one time?
worries.
I
Yeah, no
like
worries.
lost it. Yeah.
Situational
It
awareness.
seems like they're coming in a little
Am I coming in?
broken, but I think I heard most of it. Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Better? Okay,
Just
it
a
might
little
be the
bit.
volume.
Mhm.
Okay, no worries. I can cut that last part out. Post. Um, so situational awareness is you providing the listener or viewer something that they can read or they can look for or pay attention to that can help them continue to be aware of their surroundings and aware of how to improve themselves.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say one of the better sources of material out there that help you with your self-awareness um, would be Brendan Burchard's. Oh my God, what is that book called? High Performance Habits. High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. He's a really good performance coach, and what I love about that book is that it really helps you go through all the different habits that you have as a person, and compare them to the habits of some of the most successful people out there. And it's like a little comparison thing. So you're gonna have to eat a little humble pie and just say, hey, I may not have all the right qualities yet for where I'm trying to go and what I'm trying to do, but it's just like every self-improvement book. They give you the steps and the tools out there to really build on those habits and to make yourself successful. So that would be a good resource I'd recommend.
In the ever famous words of Mike Foster, outstanding. Fantastic. Well done, my friend. That's fantastic. So I know you got to go. I really, 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 and truly appreciate you for bringing as much value as you did. I'll definitely keep you posted as always. We talk anyway. And I'm sure you'll beat me up on a few things I did wrong during this interview, but I'm okay with it because I'm going to improve. That's all that matters.
No, man, it's been absolutely phenomenal, brother. Thank you so much for having me on this, and I appreciate adding value to your audience.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Our pleasure. I did want to give you the chance, real quick, to drop your any kind of links or contacts you want. How can get a hold of you? That kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for those that are looking to invest in real estate, activitypassiveincome.com, right? That's the best thing. If you're looking to follow me, follow me up on social media at Military Mike, or you can text me, right? I'm gonna give you my number right here. So go ahead and text me and I will respond. All right. 808-758-5090. Go ahead and hit me up on that one. Shoot me a text and we'll stay in touch.
Fantastic. All right, I'm Oliver Perry. You can find me on IG at the Oliver Perry. You can find me on YouTube at the Oliver Perry Show, or you can find me on Facebook at the Oliver Perry as well. On TikTok, Oliver Perry 38. We appreciate you guys listening. We pray that you got some value on it. We love you. We will see you next time.